A contest will take place next week, an unusual contest. It'll be an electorate of 24 and 15 candidates, 15 hoping for one of 5 seats on the Legislative Council, of course, that's what I'm talking about. 2 of those 15 are sitting in front of me. Tanya Humbles, good morning.
Good morning, John.
And Marlene Hendy. They both have the key support required to get their names on that list of 15. So let's find out something about them, what they believe, what they think of the Legislative Council, why they're going for it, why they believe they have the right stuff to have MLC after their name. A question I would love to have you both answer, if you wouldn't mind. Ms. Humbles first. Do you think you stand a better chance of being one of the 5 because you're a woman?
No, well, I'd like to think not, and that's mainly because I have...
But realistically, do you think that because...
Oh, of course, yeah, there are more women standing, so that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
But do you think the Keys will opt for more women if they can, because they think they need to balance things out?
I would like to think not, like I said, because I think that there are a number of capable men that are also standing as well, and I'd like to think that it's skills-based.
Yeah, realistically, though... Do you think that we'll end up with more women being elected than men?
These are quite leading questions.
They are, yes.
I would say that it's very likely that we're going to have more women than men elected to the Legislative Council this time, if not just by numbers.
Can I put that to you?
Good morning,
Marlene
John.
Hendy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The chance of there being more women than men is probably yes on
But do you think it will be influenced by the historically
I would
fact
hope
there's more men?
not. I think any position should be gained on merit. Most of my working life, all my working life, in fact, I've worked sometimes in a male-orientated professional world, but I've gained my place on merit. And I'd like to think that this election will follow that line as well, even though there are more women, but some excellent candidates across the board. So whoever gets in, I think... the Keys have got a really good choice, and I'd like to think whoever they choose the right people for the right reasons.
Ms. Humbles, you were quoted as saying you felt you should go for this because I felt I wasn't making enough difference at the time as a radio journalist. You were being cut short in some of your investigations. So what difference could you make as a LegCo member that you couldn't make as a journalist?
I think it's less of a case of being cut short on following up news stories. It's more of a case of... the next day after, your news pieces have gone out, the pieces that you've produced have gone out, there's a sort of news cycle you've got to keep kind of running. And you're
saying it's too ephemeral for your taste?
I'm saying that there's more of a chance to actually follow things up and see things right the way through if you're in LegCo as opposed to if you're in a newsroom, which is fairly evident.
It must have been very flattering to be offered a place in this race. How much of a part did that play in your decision?
I think it was less flattering, more of a decision that was made after a couple of discussions, really. I feel like I do have a place in this race, and I do feel that, the Legislative Council does need to be more representative.
Wouldn't the Keys be a place where a difference could be made more effectively?
Well, it doesn't really sort of tailor to my skill base, really. At the end of the day, I'm a scrutiniser. I'm the type of mind that would an inquiring mind, a researcher, somebody that's involved in politics, but sort of sits on the outside of it from a newsroom, I guess.
Mrs. Hendy, you've said that MHKs have one eye on the electorate. They can shy away from taking brave decisions. That's what you feel?
I've had that experience in my life in the past where I know in housing, I worked in local authority housing, and where, for instance, we were looking at trying to keep rents apace with the rise in the cost of living. Sometimes politicians wouldn't support that in case they didn't get in at the next election. And what that did was open up a major gap in what a meaningful rent should have been and what it ended up as being, which in the end produced a great degree of hardship when increases had to be made just for housing to try and keep pace. I think that LegCo has this opportunity to have an overview, and MHKs have major work in their constituencies and departments, and LegCo has this ability to work collaboratively with MHKs.
I understand you considered going for the House of Keys, but had a look at the 2 candidates standing, Mr. Allison and Mr. Hooper, and thought, well, perhaps they're, better than me?
It wasn't quite that. There were more than 2 candidates, and I've seen again in the constituency in Ramsey where you'd get far more candidates than obviously there were places. You split the vote, and really good calibre candidates didn't get in that maybe would have made a good contribution. I'd just retired at that point. I did speak to Alex Allenson, and he said, Marlene, if you want to go for MHK, you must go. But I just retired, and I thought, let's just see what retirement's like. And
have a little think about it.
Yes.
Let's just move on. Miss Humbles, hello again. Can you suggest an instance, you say making a difference, where LegCo's work has resulted in a significant alteration?
I would say that certainly in the Equality Bill, as we all know what's happened.
It was sort
there.
of parked there for a while, wasn't it? And then brought back again.
Yes, it certainly was, and I think that they did a great deal of good.
But
Having that go
is
to
it
them
more
first
twitching,
before
more putting
going to
little
Keys.
tweaks in rather than anything significant, making a difference, as you actually?
Well, you say the little tweaks, but at the end of the day, little tweaks make a very big difference, don't they? Because it's certain, like for example, in the Sexual Offences Bill, there's a tweak that's been made to that a couple of years ago now, or a year and a half ago now. That's meant that we're now going out to public consultation to talk about the potential of repeal of homosexual criminality.
Mrs.
Hendy, you say you would consider bringing a bill forward from LegCo if you thought there was a gap in legislation.
If there was a gap, and hopefully I'm approachable. I'm not if I got in, I'm not an MHK, but I know people might knock on your door. You might become aware of gaps in legislation. If that happened, I would first of all go to the department that might have the answers to that, and maybe working with that department, that might be the right route. It wouldn't frighten me at all.
And Ms. Humbles, you suggested perhaps LegCo members' pay is a little too high, that they should get less than MHKs because MHKs have constituency responsibilities.
They do have constituency responsibilities, and I am of the opinion that it should go to, which it is actually going to be reviewed. I don't believe that MLCs need expenses. I've been very, very open and honest about that, and remuneration does need looking at.
And is LegCo a full-time job, Mrs. Hendy?
Yes, indeed.
24/7? Well,
yes.
Even if there's nothing coming through from Keys? You have to be inventive.
If aspects of the Lisbane report are taken up, which some of them already have, I think the LegCo role will be even more substantial than it has been in the past. And I think to do that job properly, I'd like to do a good job, even if it's in a small area, rather than spread too wide and be running round.